FragPunk had a second closed beta test, and after spending some time with it, I have further impressions from the previous test that I participated in. If you missed out on the previous test, I did make a video regarding it, so I will provide you with a quick recap of what this game is and what it's all about. But before I do that, if you like this content and you'd like to see more, please consider liking and subscribing. So let's get into it. When it comes to FragPunk, what this game is essentially a 5v5 tactical shooter in the mold of a game like Valorant, but it leans far more heavily into the arcade and casual playstyle versus the more slower and methodical playstyle. What this means is that the core mechanics of this game is very similar to that of Call of Duty. You aim down sights, weapons are fairly accurate, you do have recoil. It's very much in the mold of Call of Duty, which makes the barrier to entry lower, allowing more casual players to get involved. On top of this, not only are the mechanics similar to that of Call of Duty, but the pacing of FragPunk is significantly faster than the pacing of all the other tactical shooters, Valorant, Counter-Strike, Spectre Divide. Those games are much more slower in terms of the pace versus what FragPunk is. FragPunk, much like Valorant, has its own roster of characters, each with their own abilities. But unlike FragPunk, Valorant, there is no ultimates in FragPunk. FragPunk does not have an ultimate. It's similar to Spectre Divide in that regard. Another thing to make note is that the game is available on Xbox and it will launch on Xbox. There is no word on a PlayStation version at this time. Now, what is the difference between this game and Valorant? Well, while the pacing is different, while the core mechanics is different, the two elephants in the room that make FragPunk unique is first and foremost the shard cards. The cards are picked randomly, and your team will use their currency to activate one of three cards or all three cards if you have enough. Now, these cards bend the rules of the game, and essentially it provides certain buffs or nerfs to your team or the enemy team. For example, a buff that you could receive for your team is everyone on your team has an extra 25 health. Another one could be big head mode for your oppositions, making it easier to hit headshots. Another one could be they add tall grass to the environment, making it more difficult to see long ranges and allows for more stealth. So the cards themselves, both teams will select cards and activate cards based on the currency and what they choose to unlock as a team. But these things change the rules of the game round to round. It is done every single round. The other thing that makes FragPunk different than Valorant is how overtime is settled. So the way FragPunk is done is that it is 7 rounds, first team to win 4. You'll attack for 3 times, you'll defend for 3 times. If you are tied, you will enter the last round, the 7th round, and it'll be a duel round. Essentially what it is you have to think of it like soccer. It will be 1v1 duels, shootout style, much in the way of soccer, where you'll have a duel. If your teammate wins the duel, they will continue on to the next round to fight the next opponent. However, what the status is of their health and utility usage will also carry over. So if you've used all of your abilities in one round, the next round you don't have it anymore. If you're at 10 HP after surviving one round, you're at 10 HP for the next round. And the first team to eliminate all 5 opponents before your team loses all 5 wins the match. And to me, this is the coolest aspect of FragPunk. It is the most fun and the most high pressure because while you're playing, everyone else is watching. And there's always that strategy of, well, who's your best player on your team and where do you want them to shoot? Do you want them to be the first one? Do you want them to be the last one? Right? So there's that whole aspect of it as well. And it's very unique and it's very high pressure, but it's also high rewarding when you carry your team during that round. It's a nice twist and it's a fresh take on the genre. On top of this, because this game is free to play, much like Valorant, you'll have your typical battle pass, in-game shop cosmetics, etc. So what have they done from my previous test that I participated in to this test? Well, the obvious things are usually bug fixes, polishing, the game ran better, less bugs, better netcode, all of that's good stuff showing signs of progression of the way the game is. The overall game balance, I feel, is better now than it was in the previous test, but it's still not quite there yet. And the other thing they gave us was they did give us a couple more maps, as well as 2 new Lancers, or characters, if you will, that we have access to try out as well. So aside from this, how do I feel about the game? I've talked about what the game is and how the game is, but how do I feel about it? Do I think this game is going to have legs long term? And in my opinion, yeah, I think it's going to have legs long term, because the one thing that Valorant, Counter-Strike, and even Spectre Divide, the challenge with those games is they're not very casual friendly. They are far more, for the hardcore gamer, you have to commit time. If you don't commit time, you're going to get your ass handed to you. Because of the mechanics of FragPunk, the way the pacing of FragPunk, the way it works, is that it allows for more casual play. Furthermore, FragPunk also has extra modes that are not present in those other games. For example, there's Team Deathmatch, there's Scrimmage, they even have a designated duel mode where if you just want to do the overtime duels, you can do that. So they do have a casual playlist even on top of the standard Shard Clash mode. So from a casual perspective, the fact that it's on Xbox, the fact that you can use controller even on PC, this game is going to have a much more broader appeal for the casual audience. So long term, from a casual perspective, I think it's going to have legs. From a professional or esports perspective, I think this is where the challenge is going to be. And the reason for this is it all goes back to the shard card system. While the shard cards add variety to the rules and keeps gameplay fresh from round to round, they don't translate well to a competitive environment, because there are going to be times where one team will get a favorable draw and the other team will not. And because one team gets the favorable draw and the other one doesn't, the odds of winning that round can heavily skew to one side. And when it comes to pro play, when it comes to the high level play, as a player, you never want to feel like the odds are skewed in one team's favor. When it comes down to it, players only really want to lose to a player or a team that is better than them. They don't want any outside interference or luck, if you will, to be the determining factor as why they won or lost a match or even a round. This is where the card system is the issue. While it's fun for casual play and it's great for that aspect, from a competitive aspect, it could be very annoying where you can play 2 or 3 rounds and your team doesn't get very good draws, but the enemy team gets all these crazy draws. They get the health buffs, they get the headshot buffs, they get all the advantages, the free buys and all of that stuff, and you're getting this stuff that's not as useful. And it could be frustrating because that means that for those rounds, it wasn't a 50-50 shot that you were going to win, and you may have lost that round, not because the enemy team was a better team, but just because they got the better draw and that you didn't get it. So that aspect is going to be a challenge for the team. They do have different shard cards for ranked and casual play. So there is 2 different lists of cards, but the cards themselves are still RNG based. So who knows what kind of draw you're going to get on any saving round. You can use a relic to save 1 card between rounds that is not used. So if you want to bring it back for another round, you can. But it's still very much a hard RNG element to it. Overall, the game is a blast to play. It is quite polished. It does need more optimization in the sense for lower end rigs, because the system requirements, at least on PC, is pretty high. Even if you just want to run the game at 60 FPS, it's pretty high. So they do need to work there. The game is only slated to come out in 2025. But that being said, what's here is very, very promising. They will have challenges to compete, obviously, because Valorant, Counter-Strike, Spectre Divide is having a very hard time in themselves. But they do have extra marketing for this game, as it already has been shown for different shows, and Microsoft is promoting this game as it is on Xbox. So I do think this game has a lot of potential. I do think this game is going to have legs. I absolutely have a blast playing the game. Do I enjoy it more than, say, Spectre Divide? I don't know. I enjoy certain aspects more than Spectre Divide, for sure. But there's other aspects that I'm not too fond of. Like I said, I'm not fond of the shard card from a competitive aspect. From a quick casual play, yeah, it's great. But from a competitive, I'm not a fan of the randomness and how odds can be skewed against you, specifically because one team got lucky with the draw and the other team didn't. So overall, this is definitely a game to keep a look on. If you're on Steam, you can wishlist it now. I believe you can wishlist it on Xbox as well. It is definitely something that you should be keeping an eye on, especially if you are a fan of that tactical shooter style, and if you also wanted something that was more casual friendly, more arcade like, this game is going to be definitely for you. We don't know what the full roster of characters will be at launch, if this is what we all have or if there's going to be more, but what's here is very promising and it looks like a blast to play. It was great fun. Absolutely enjoy it. I'm going to continue to play this beta till it closes. Like I said, I'm having a blast. It's a lot of fun. Casual players who enjoy the Call of Duty mechanics will definitely dig the mechanics of this game. It's very good. In terms of problems with the game, I don't see much currently. The only real issue and feedback that I would give for developers is when you are sprinting, the weapon bob makes it feel like you're moving faster than what you actually are. Like, it feels like the weapon bob moves too quickly for how fast you're actually moving. So it kind of gives you this like optical illusion, like, hey, look how fast you're moving, but you're not really moving that fast. So I think that that's something that I would like to see an adjustment on their end. But overall, FragPunk is coming out next year. Keep an eye on it. It could be very well be a game for you, and it could very well take off when it releases in 2025. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.